Imagine a world where the very foundation of Western civilization is built on a series of letters and books that were written, lost, and rediscovered over centuries. This world is not a far-off fantasy, but the reality of early Christianity, a movement that began with a handful of followers in the first century and grew to become one of the most influential forces in human history. At the heart of this movement are the New Testament writings, especially the letters of Paul, which offer a unique window into the early Christian community and its struggles, beliefs, and aspirations. These writings are not just historical documents. They are living testimonies that continue to shape our world today. The New Testament is a collection of texts that are central to the Christian faith. But understanding their origins and the context in which they were written can shed light on their significance. The sayings of Jesus, the central figure of Christianity, are believed to have been spoken in the 20s or 30s CE. However, the books that contain these sayings, the Gospels, were written much later, with the earliest, Mark, possibly appearing around 70 CE. This gap between the events and their recording is significant because it suggests that the early Christian community relied heavily on oral tradition to pass down the teachings of Jesus. The Gospels, while not the earliest Christian writings, are crucial because they provide the most detailed accounts of Jesus' life, death, and resurrection. These narratives are foundational to Christian belief and have been studied, interpreted, and debated for centuries. However, the fact that they were written decades after the events they describe has led to questions about their accuracy and reliability. Some scholars argue that the Gospels are based on reliable oral traditions, while others suggest that they reflect the theological and pastoral needs of the communities that produced them. Before the Gospels, the earliest Christian writings were the letters of Paul, a former persecutor of Christians who became one of its most influential figures. Paul's letters, written in the 40s and 50s CE, are addressed to various Christian communities he had established or visited during his missionary travels. These letters are not just personal correspondence, but are filled with theological reflections, moral exhortations, and practical advice for the early Christian communities. Paul's letters are unique in that they provide a direct glimpse into the concerns and issues facing these early believers, such as conflicts over Jewish and Gentile practices, the role of faith versus works, and the nature of the church. Paul's letters are also significant because they reveal the diversity and complexity of early Christianity. Far from being a monolithic movement, early Christianity was a dynamic and sometimes contentious network of communities scattered throughout the Mediterranean. Paul's letters show that these communities were grappling with questions of identity, authority, and practice, and that Paul himself was a key figure in shaping the direction of the movement. His letters often address specific problems, such as the controversy in Galatia over whether Gentile converts needed to follow Jewish law, or the moral issues in Corinth, where the community was struggling with issues of immorality and division. The third phase in the production of Christian writings came in the late 1st or early 2nd century, with the composition of a diverse collection of documents, including the Acts of the Apostles, the Book of Revelation, and the epistles attributed to other apostles like Peter, James, and John. These later writings reflect the continued growth and development of the Christian community and address new challenges and theological questions. For example, the Book of Revelation, a highly symbolic and apocalyptic text, was written in response to the persecution of Christians and offers a vision of hope and ultimate victory over evil. The process of canonization, or the selection of which books would be included in the New Testament, was a complex and gradual one. It was not until the late 4th century that the list of books we know today as the New Testament was widely accepted. This process involved not only the recognition of certain texts as authoritative, but also the exclusion of others, such as the Gospel of Thomas and the Shepherd of Hermas. The criteria for inclusion were often based on factors like the text's perceived apostolic authority, orthodoxy, and widespread use in the Church. The dating of the New Testament books is a subject of ongoing debate among scholars. While the letters of Paul are generally considered the earliest, there is significant variation in the dating of other books. For example, the Book of James could be one of the earliest Christian writings or a much later work. Similarly, the dating of John's Gospel ranges from the late 1st century to the early 2nd century. These debates reflect the complex and sometimes uncertain nature of the evidence, as well as the different interpretive approaches of scholars. The letters of Paul, in particular, offer a rich and multifaceted view of early Christianity. They are not just historical documents, but are also literary works that reflect the cultural and social context of the time. Paul's letters are characterized by their form and structure, which includes an opening greeting, a thanksgiving section, the body of the letter, and closing greetings. This form, while influenced by the conventions of Hellenistic letter writing, is also uniquely Christian in its content and purpose. Paul's letters are also notable for their theological depth and pastoral sensitivity. In his letter to the Romans, Paul presents a comprehensive exposition of the Christian gospel, emphasizing the universal need for salvation and the role of faith in the life of the believer. In his letter to the Corinthians, he addresses a range of practical and moral issues, from sexual immorality to the proper conduct of worship. In Galatians, he defends the freedom of the gospel against the legalistic demands of some Jewish Christians. Each letter is tailored to the specific needs and concerns of the community it addresses. Yet they all share a common thread of Paul's theology and his vision of the Christian life. The letters of Paul also provide valuable insights into the social and cultural context of early Christianity. Paul's letters are written to communities that were often composed of both Jews and Gentiles, and his teachings reflect the challenges of creating a unified community in a diverse and sometimes hostile environment. Paul's letters emphasize the importance of love, unity, and mutual support, and they challenge the social norms of the time, such as the subordination of women and the exclusion of Gentiles. In conclusion, the New Testament writings, especially the letters of Paul, are a testament to the dynamic and evolving nature of early Christianity. They offer a window into the beliefs, practices, and challenges of the early Christian communities, and continue to be a source of inspiration and guidance for millions of believers today. The story of these writings is not just a story of the past, but a living tradition that continues to shape the world in profound ways.